Thanks so much for being here. I'm instructor Dwayne Jenkins. In today's video, I wanted to give you some tips on how to get a good guitar tone. I've had some people ask me about that. You know, how do I get the guitar tone of my favorite guitar player? So if you're in that position, you want to learn their songs or possibly like their tone, you want to figure out how to get it, stick around and I'll give you the answer.
Audio Jungle.
Alright, so one of the things that's real important about playing electric guitar is getting the right type of guitar tone. Now of course you want to get the right equipment and stuff. Guitar, once you learn that, you know, learning just the chords and how to strum and stuff, that's all good and dandy too. But you want to make sure you get a really good tone. So depending on, you know, who you're shooting for, really going to make a difference on that. So what you want to do is think about your guitar player. And what I like to do is, number one, I would say research, research, research. Okay, it's very, very important. You got to look at the guitar players that you like and research what kind of equipment they use. You know, what kind of guitars, amps, stuff like that. Do they use pedals, stuff like that. So the first thing I would say, research, 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 research. I used to do that all the time. You know, really get into the players that I liked. I'd kind of figure out not only, you know, how they played the guitar, what their approach was, but I try to look into, you know, what kind of guitar did they use, stuff like that, what kind of amp, stuff like that. So first thing right off the bat is do the research, and then second of all, I would look at their amplifier. What kind of amplifier are they using? Are they using a Fender? Are they using Marshall? Are they using Mesa Boogie? Are they using, you know, an Orange Crush? Are they using Randall? There's all kinds of different amplifiers out there. So really look at that. That makes a huge difference. That's called the back line. Look at that. Look at what kind of amplifier they're using, because each amplifier is going to sound a little different. So, like for instance, if let's say you like Stevie Ray Vaughan and you want to get that Stevie Ray Vaughan sound, well, he plays through a Fender amp. So you don't want to go get you some, you know, high output level, you know, distorted amp like Mesa Boogie or something. Get you a Fender amp, and that'll give you an insight to getting his tone. He plays a Fender guitar through a Fender amp. Get those two things. That's going to give you some, at least headed in the right direction. Of course, you got to practice like him, learn his techniques, all that stuff, you know. But that's going to at least give you in the general direction of getting his tone. Now, like for instance, if you want to get Metallica's tone, that's a completely different thing, because Metallica use Marshall amps. So you want to get you a nice Marshall amp or something equivalent to that that has high gain, because that's what's going to give you that distortion sound, you know what I mean? Heavy metal. And once you learn those heavy metal techniques, then you really start to understand where they're coming from, get their tone, that kind of stuff like that. So once again, look at the kind of amplifier that they're using and try to get something of similarity. Nowadays they have modeling amps, which are great, like a Fender Mustang, because they have all these different amps in the amp itself. So you could sound like Stevie Ray Vaughan or Metallica or anything in between. Okay, so maybe that would be a good thing to look into, a modeling amp. If you know you don't have a whole lot of money, those are great for that purpose because they have a wide variety of sounds in them. All right, number three, I would look into what kind of pickups they're using, because pickups make a big difference, whether they're using like a single coil pickup like this one right here. Okay, this one in the middle, this is called a single coil, and when you have two pickups together like these here, these are called humbuckers. And why they're called humbuckers is because they buck the hum, meaning that sometimes with single coil pickups, they tend to hum with like fluorescent lighting and stuff like that. So when you put two of them together, it cancels out the hum, bucks the hum as they call it, cancels out the hum. Is called a humbucker. So it gives you kind of a fatter sound. So if you're trying to play like heavy metal kind of music, loud rock music, look at your guitar players. Are they using humbucker pickups in their guitars? If they are, then you want to get a guitar that has a humbucker pickup, or put some humbuckers in your guitar. One of the two, or have them put in, whatever you know, either you do it or you have somebody do it, doesn't really matter, but that's going to give you a bit closer to their type of sound, because they're different, you know. If you listen to players like Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, blues players, they play single coil pickups, which have a different kind of sound than humbucker pickups, like, you know, your heavy metal players like Metallica and AC/DC and Van Halen, those kind of players that play high output rock, they're going to use the double coiled humbucker pickups. So if you're looking for a high output, you want to definitely have humbucker. Okay, if you have single coil on your guitar, then try to figure out how you can put some humbuckers in there. They do have humbucker pickups that you can put in like a single coil space. You can take that out and put in some, it's kind of interesting. I don't have those myself, but you can do that, or you can just, you know, get a guitar body or even a different guitar, or whatever you want to do. There's all kinds of different things you can do. You just got to do it, figure out, and I would recommend having it put right here in the bridge pickup, okay? So that's the third thing. Look at the type of pickups they're using. Are they using single coil or they're using humbuckers, okay? Number 4, looking to see if they're using any type of pedals. That makes a huge difference on their tone as well. Like say somebody like Van Halen, he uses a lot of pedals. He uses, you know, different types of pedals and stuff like that for his sound. You know, Jimi Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, some of these people use like wah pedals. They might be using reverb, they might be using chorus, they might be using delay, they might be using tremolo. There's all kinds of different things they could be doing, so you want to definitely look into this. Look into their pedals, watch some videos of them. That's what's great about like YouTube nowadays, is we can actually watch video of these guys playing on stage. You know, are they using a pedal board? If they are, what are they using? Are they using like effects positive? There's certain types of pedals they're using. There's all kinds of really cool stuff nowadays that you can research. There's people who put out videos on interviewing some of these players, and they show exactly what they're using, their amps, their pedals, their guitars. And so that really gives you insight into, and that goes back to step 1, research, research, research. Steps gives you some insight into what they're using, what kind of pickups they're using, what kind of, you know, amps are they using, what are their amp settings. Some of them even show you their amp settings, how they set up their amp, because that makes a big difference too. Okay, so if they're using pedals, research what kind of pedals they are using, maybe get some for yourself. That's going to give you some insight, give you a better direction in how to sound like them. Okay. Number 5, which is very, very important, is to know your equipment. You can't just get a bunch of, you know, amps and pedals and guitars and figure you're going to get the tone. Okay, it doesn't necessarily work that way. That'll help you get in the right direction, but you got to know how to use your equipment. You got to know how to, the knobs that are on your amplifier, you know, your clean, your gain, your EQ. Usually they have like an EQ, treble, bass, middle. You got to mess with those. Take some time to experiment, you know, move the knobs around, play a little bit, see how they sound. How does it sound if I do put this knob this way and this knob this way? How does that sound? What if I have gain up to all the way to the right? What if it's, you know, halfway to the left? You know, you have to experiment. There's a lot of experimentation when it comes to guitar tone. And that's one thing that I've noticed a lot of guitar players don't want to do. They don't want to spend the time experimenting with their equipment. They don't want to spend time messing with it, you know. People have often asked me about my tone and ask me, hey, how do you get that great tone? Well, the reason why is because I've spent many, many hours, you know, messing with the knobs and putting pedals here and checking out this and doing that and saying, well, what does the sound if I put it like this? What does the sound if I put it like that? What does the sound if I do this, do that, whatever? But that's what you have to do. You have to experiment. You have to be like a mad scientist, you know, working in your lab, experimenting with your knobs. And if you're using pedals, you know, experiment with that and how the pedals interact with the amplifier and how that interacts with your guitar, because that's really what it is. It's a science. Getting a really good guitar tone is a science. There's a science to it, and it really is from experimentation. One of the great guitar players had a great tone, Eddie Van Halen. You know, when he came along back in the late 70s and dominated the 80s, everybody was trying to get his tone. And I remember reading in the guitar magazine's interviews with him, he said it was just a lot of experimentation, just a lot of experimenting with this, experimenting with that, trying this, trying that. And that's one of the reasons why he just got that unique tone, because of the fact of all the hours he spent like a mad scientist working in his lab, experimenting with his stuff. You know, what happens if I do this, do that, you know, that's what you got to do. So if you don't want to do that, you know, you're probably not going to get that great of a tone. If you don't have the right kind of equipment, you're not going to get that great of tone if you don't do the research. You got to do it. Spend the time experimenting, do the research. Okay. And number 6, the number 1 thing, you got to work with this stuff daily. You just got to. You've got to be working with your stuff. You've got to be, you know, working with your pedals and figuring out, you know, if I turn this knob here and I put the pedal there, it changes. That's one thing that I've noticed when I put my pedal board together, is some of the pedals they change the sound depending on where I put them in the chain. If this pedal's over here before this pedal, it sounds one way, but if I take this pedal and put it over here before this pedal, it sounds a different way. You know, if I put this pedal here or this pedal there, everything changes. So you have to, it's a lot of experimentation. You've got to experiment. Get a good tone that you like, and then once you get that tone that you like, then it becomes a lot funner to play. Because you get inspired to want to play because you got a really good tone now. Now you got the tone that you want, you know. You know, if you want a good Metallica tone, once you get it, then it's fun to play that stuff, you know what I mean? Want to get a good lead tone? You know, whatever. But you just got to work on it, okay? So just work on that stuff, practice it daily, and once again, research, research, research. What kind of amp are they using? What kind of pickups are they using? What kind of guitar? That all makes a big difference. You know, pedals. Are they using pedals of it all? Are they using reverb on there? Do they have chorus? Do they have delay? Stuff like that. You got to really know your equipment. It's very, very important. You can't just get the equipment and just say it's going to give you the tone you want, because it won't. You've got to know how to work it. You've got to know how to adjust the knobs on the amp. You've got to know how to work with the knobs on your guitar. You've got all these knobs and the switch and all this stuff on here. The more you know how to use it, the better. You're going to just get you a very good, unique tone. You'll develop your own tone, as well as being able to dial in the tone of your favorite players as well. And like I said, last of all, you got to work on it every day. Every day, just work with your equipment. You know, you can't just buy an amp, plug in, and say, oh yeah, that's good. Sometimes that works, okay, sometimes, but not usually. Usually you have to kind of dial in the sound, and you have to do some research and listen to your players, listen to where they sound. Do they have a, you know, they have a bright trebly sound? Do they have a low bassy sound? Do they have a lot of gain on their amp, on their tone? Do they have a little bit of gain? Are they mostly clean? You know, are they using the bridge pickup? Are they using the neck pickup? Because the neck pickup has a little bit of a more bassy tone to it than the bridge pickup, as you can tell, has more of a bright sound to it. So that makes a big difference too. And as you listen to your players, your favorite players, kind of try to do some research and see what kind of pickups they're using. They use the neck pickup, or using the bridge pickup, or using both of them together. All that stuff is really going to help you get insight in how they play, how to get their tone, and then you will be able to get the stuff that you need to get their tone as well. Okay? So keep practicing every day. If you have any questions, let me know. It's all about experimentation. You just got to work with it every day, work with it, and the more you work with it, the better you're going to be. All right, so take care, and I'll see you at our next lesson.